Good morning from Yummy BTV, wishing you all well, of course. Now, I continue with the theme of miscarriages of justice this morning, and this was a case that many of you asked me quite a while back to give my opinion and take on, especially from a prison side of things, right? This has been described as by MPs and various other people as probably the greatest miscarriage of justice of all time. I say it's probably the saddest miscarriage of justice of all time. So we are talking Stefan KISZKO, right? Sorry, my pronunciation might not be right, but his full name is in the title. Now, this crime took place in 1975 on the Yorkshire Moors in West Yorkshire, where a 12-year-old girl, Leslie Molseed, born Leslie Suzanne Anderson, I think, was abducted, raped, and murdered. Yeah, she had learning difficulties as well, right? As well as Stefan KISZKO, described as having a mental age of a 12-year-old. So during the early days, the first couple of days of the inquiry, with the police force trying to find Leslie's killer, it comes to their attention that Stefan KISZKO, right, think about this, used to take number plates down as a hobby. Yeah, he worked as a tax clerk. He lived with his mum and auntie. He had no social life whatsoever, right? One of the number plates that he took down were allegedly one of the cars that were near the scene of the crime of Leslie Molseed's, where her body was found, during around the crime scene. Within the first day of the inquiry, 4 young schoolgirls tell the police that they saw Stefan KISZKO exposing himself to them, right? Only later on down the line to say that they made it all up for a laugh, all right? So they arrest KISZKO anyway, because he fits the criteria, sadly, as an oddball, yeah, and probably an easy target. Police on it straight away, believing that he's their man, right? Remember, no DNA forensic testing them days. It wasn't around. Now, he's in the police station, confesses to the murder after a couple of days. He asks they said, do you want a solicitor present? He said, no, I want my mum. But they refused it, the police, kept him in custody, and he confesses to the murder. Asked why later on, why he confessed. He said, oh, I thought they were going to let me out, so I just agreed. You know what I realised? People with real deficiencies and mental ages of children, grown adults with that kind of condition, if you notice carefully, children admit to things that they haven't done. And then when you ask them again, probably they go, yeah, we did. No, we didn't. This is what that condition really is all about. And this is what Peter Sullivan's thing wasn't as bad as Stefan's, right? And you can quite clearly see that he had a few faculties around him, if you get what I mean. Now, he admits to it. He goes to court. He changes his mind at court. His legal team said, listen, the best thing to do is just take manslaughter with diminished responsibilities. And how can you advise a man to take that when he ain't done it? Yeah? So he goes for that. The jury don't have it. They convict him on murder, right? So he gets, like yesterday with Peter Sullivan, the 16-year minimum term on a life sentence, right? During his time in prison, when I tell you, he didn't even have the know-how to go on a protection wing. because he just didn't understand it, and staff didn't really try to change his mind. He got some of the worstest beatings that I've ever heard of. Split head, mop buckets on his head. He was like really well built. You know, like got that kind of Mong strength where everybody's hitting him and all that. And he just seems to be able to take it. But it still was turning up everywhere. And remember this, Razor Smith is on record. Razor Smith, an ex-armed robber, right? Many of you might know him. Razor Smith's on record for saying that he was getting a bit older by the time that he saw him, and pushed him down the stairs, like from the top of the stairs all the way down. He tumbled all the way down, right? With injuries and that kind of thing. He dislocated his shoulder on that one. Now, Razor's on record for saying, the minute that I found that he was proven innocent, he said he never troubled, he never listened to the narrative again of sex offenders being guilty in that. He said he never joined in to any kind of violence against so-called sex offenders again, right? So he's subjected to beatings all that time. He won't admit to crimes. They put him in Grendon, which is a therapeutic jail, and said, look, you need to do a sexual treatment course. He said, nah, I'm not doing it. I've been told not to do it because I never done it. They moved him out of Grendon, put him back in Wakefield. Now, further down the line, with the dismissive evidence of the school kids, right? The number plate thing, yeah, that as well. Fresh evidence, DNA now, with by way of sperm on Leslie Moulsey's body. Now, they tested it, said, nah, it doesn't match Stefan's. Imagine this. It couldn't have never been Stefan's anyway, because he has a condition called hypergodonism, right, if I pronounce that right, which means you're infertile. You can't produce sperm, mate. Madness. So, anyway, right, so that gets him out on his appeal. Bang on the 16-year mark. So he comes out in 1991, right? But within a year, dies of a heart attack. And guess what? He died 100 yards from Leslie Moulsey's grave. You can't write this kind of sad story, mate, right? So many people came out after this and spoke on behalf of Stefan. Further down the line now, 32 years later, a comic book writer, right, or reader, can't remember, Ronald Gastry, right, 32 years, from 1975 to 2007. But Ronald Gastry's DNA wasn't on the DNA database, but he got arrested in 2005 for an allegation of a sexual offence. But he didn't get charged. But what the police did was take his DNA anyway, as they let him go. And that DNA in the database showed up to be the sperm on Leslie Moulsey's body. Goes on trial 2007, gets found guilty all them years later when he probably thought that he got away with it, showed little remorse in the courtroom, and will end up dying in prison. Imagine that for a story. And the thing about it, many of you asked me yesterday about what could a staff do and inmates when people are convicted of such crimes. And I have to agree with some of you, because if you're convicted of crimes of that magnitude and nature, how I used to think, yeah, but he got found guilty. Sometimes it's a very naive way to look at things with all these miscarriages of justice now coming to light years and years later, and there's been so many recent times that I feel kind of guilty that I wrote certain people off with just going with the narrative that a court found you guilty, so that means that you are. But come on, mate. This case with Stefan, and we send whatever family members are still around, we send love, light, and prayers for a man who died at 44 years old, who had never been in trouble with the police, that they just built a case on probably the oddest person around that town or area at that time. They took the easy way out and an easy target. And I suppose sometimes those that played a hand in it, but sometimes you can only go with what you've got. I know, but you think, this is just long, and it's just long. But no, you asked me. But those, that as far as I remember, those are the particulars of this grave miscarriage of justice. Right, I'll be up in a little while with a little bit more different content.